This is the Business Breakfast on DubaiEye 103.8.
Welcome back. We're talking education this week. It is back to school week, and joining us in the studio right now is Sanjay Mankani, the Managing Director of Fortis Education. Sanjay, good morning. Thanks for being with us.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I tell you what, it's a busy week for you because in a couple of days' time you open one of the biggest schools in Dubai. It's Sunmark in one of the new areas of Dubai. At its peak, it's going to have about 3,000 students. But as we just heard from James Mullen of whichschooladvisors.com, there's a lot more competition for schools here in Dubai at the moment. So how do you position a school like Sunmark in an already crowded market and fill it with 3,000 pupils?
Well, essentially, you've got to start off with defining some very key unique selling points, USPs, right? So we have our entire education anchored on 5 brand promises. The first of which is MultiSmart Learning, about teaching through the multiple intelligence, is very, very core to us. And that's actually a very good practice which happens at the early years and foundation stage. And we percolate that all the way up to key stage 5, which is essentially sixth form. Followed by digital literacy, a core component for the 21st century. The third millennia, we talk about how it underpins, it's the bedrock of all subjects and all essential experiences in the school environment. So we've got a tech-enabled campus, which is pretty cool. We've got like Aruba networks used at the airports. One of the core things about us is also bringing well-being back to the center of the educational process.
And this is interesting. We spoke about this earlier, that you say as much as academics are important and STEM and science, technology, engineering, maths, happiness is really important. And we were joking earlier on when Malcolm was at boarding school in the 1960s and 70s. His masters used to put a coin between their knuckles and hit him over the head. No, your teachers will not be armed with coins.
We've been on this journey of education, human values, which is part of our core ethos. And it's within the framework of something called positive education, which has got 6 domains of developing happiness. And the happiness in itself is a science. It's not some hug a tree kind of story, go off to a park and all kind of hold hands and sing songs. So we've got explicit teaching, which happens in periods, and we've also got implicit stuff which happens in assemblies. We do things like growth mindsets. We look at values through education. I mean, if you want to teach somebody truth, you've got to model it yourself. So our teachers are all supercharged and fantastic role models on how they actually inculcate values in children through what we call the related sub-values or character strengths.
Which all sounds great. As a parent, I love the idea of this focus on digital, of the STEM, the science, technology, engineering, maths. I love what you're saying about focusing on the happiness and well-being of kids. But I'm looking at your fees, Sanjay, and I'm thinking, oh, ouch. For foundation stage 1, 55,000 dirhams. That's for a 3-year-old, going up to, just shy of 100,000 dirhams a year for someone 16, 17, 18 years old. We've had lots of SMSs this morning, as you can imagine, about people saying it's just not affordable anymore to have kids in Dubai. So how do you justify those kind of fees?
That's a very fair point. I mean, we have a fabulous founders discount program in place, okay, and we understand the difficulties families are facing, especially at this moment in time with the challenges in the economic environment, with the slump in oil prices. So there is an acute sensitivity towards that for our founding members as they come on board. And once we've got the school pattern emerging, we will be providing discounts, very aggressive discounts to families as they join in terms of siblings. So you can actually get up to about 50% off, if I'm not mistaken, for a family in terms of total tuition cost if you've got an entire family enrolled at the school, which is fantastic. So that's a very good value proposition which comes in. Going forward, with all the competition, with all the pressure of getting the right staff, salary packages are very important. But beyond that, we understand that we have to have well-being of our community as a core. So I think at the end of it, we need to invest in a very, very strong brand in our brand promises and deliver on it. And to do that, we need a certain amount of money towards fees, because otherwise you could just become a mass market school. And the economics are very simple. You want to invest 250 million to build a school, go ahead and do it. But if you want to have a very low fee structure, you have to compromise somewhere, and that means more kids in a classroom. That means less qualified teachers potentially, and therefore it's one of those things. So if you look at compare the private school model to the public sector model in the UK, for example, right? In the UK, you pay an average of about 40% in terms of taxes. Divide that by the actual population, you'll get to an approximate figure. There's a study done on this, about 14 to 17,000 pounds sterling per person per year, which is actually what your tax money goes towards in terms of education. Multiply that by 4.8 today, that's about 75,000 dirhams. So Dubai, in terms of where we are not. I don't think you can say that if you want a good quality education, it has to be heavily discounted. You can do that model, but then it's going to become a mass market school, and that's where the trade-off is. And parents have to understand that and make that choice.
Sanjay, in your forward planning for the school, what are you planning in terms of increases? Obviously, once you start being inspected and hopefully get some great inspection results, what are you planning to do in terms of the liberty that will give you to increase fees?
Well, in the sense that it has to be working with our stakeholders and seeing what they're willing to afford to pay. Now, what we've seen is parents, our community of demographics, as parents are willing to pay higher prices if they see value in the educational provision which has been given to them. And it's if we have lost students, for example, from one of our other schools, which is mid-market, they always migrate necessarily to schools with higher price points, not necessarily downwards. So at the end of the day, when it comes to that period of time where we have to look at an increment, the increments have to be sensible, that has to be inflation indexed, and it has to be in line with our development plans, because we've got a very large campus in place. We are looking at very, very high caliber staff in place from various private schools in the UK who have joined us, and these people do not come at low cost.
The fees that Richard just mentioned there, is that your flat fee for education, or will parents also be looking at debentures or facilities fees or health fees or other costs?
No, we don't have any hiddens. It's plain and simple. This is what it is. There's no debentures. And the debenture model typically works in some schools. They're typically non-profit, but we have what you see is what you get model.
Let me flip the money question around and say, given the discounts you're offering of up to sort of 20-25%, it's great for parents, but how far are we from having a school in Dubai go bust? Because there's massive upfront investment, as you say. The operating costs are huge, and we've got massive competition at the moment, and that typically drives down prices. Having a private school face bankruptcy is an awful thing for thousands of pupils who are going to be there. Just how tough is it running a school at the moment in Dubai?
It's extremely tough. It's very challenging as the market, the KHDA has opened the spigots essentially to allow for customer choice, which is fantastic. Putting the power back into the hands of the ultimate person, which is the student, the pupil, making him and the family have the choices. I think that's critical to understand, and I think there are going to be some bruised members on this landscape. Whether we're going to have a bankruptcy in a very, very large kind of public profile circumstance, I don't think so necessarily, because the KHDA is a very, very informed regulator. They come in very quickly. If they see any signs of distress, they move in very quickly and they sort things out in collaboration with the operators. And there are people out there who are willing to recapitalize schools financially if there are situations. So I don't think we're going to see that happen over here. We've got a kind of a forward-looking regulator, and people are very interested in this space to come in and pick up distressed assets if such a thing does arise.
We're going to have to leave it there. We're out of time, but I really appreciate you joining us in the studio this morning. Very, very busy week for you. Good luck with the launch of the new school. Sanjay Mankani is the Managing Director of Fortis Education. Thank you.
DubaiEye.